I wasn't looking for proof. I wanted relief. Something I could hold in my hands that said I wasn't crazy, that my gut wasn't inventing things. Instead, the proof led me straight to a door with peeling paint and a brass 3B screwed crooked into it. The GPS dot stopped there at 11:42 p.m. on a Thursday, and 5 minutes later, my husband walked into her apartment like he'd done it 100 times. He said I was overreacting. Right. Tell that to the blinking blue dot and the man carrying an overnight bag. I'm Leah, 33, project manager, lover of color-coded calendars, and the kind of cooking that leaves the kitchen looking like a war zone. I've been married to Adam for 7 years. We bought a small gray house with a stubborn rosebush out front and a mortgage that made us team up like Navy SEALs just to make it work. We were never flashy. We were practical, friends first, the couple who split grocery lists in the middle of the aisle and raced down opposite ends. The drift started quietly, like a draft through a window you thought was sealed. Adam joined a new team at work. Suddenly, there were client dinners and late deploys, and she's new, she just asks a lot of questions. She had a name, Claire, and I met her once at a happy hour. Petite, a little too effusive, the kind of woman who touched your elbow when she laughed. I didn't think much of it. Then the lies got loud to me, even when his voice stayed calm. "You're overreacting," he said, the first night he came home after midnight. He smelled like a stranger's perfume, trying to apologize. "We had a release, Leah. I stopped for a drink with the team. You know how it is." I do know how it is. I also know how he started keeping his phone face down and how he took showers the second he walked in. The night he laughed at me for asking why he needed cologne for a server migration, something in me clicked into place. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I downloaded our insurance company's stupid car app because Adam never reads emails, which means I'm the one who deals with everything from renewal notices to oil change coupons. The app had a safety and location tab, chirped like a cartoon bird. The first time the dot lingered across town near the river, I told myself it was a shortcut. The second time, it sat for 2 hours behind a row of brownstones, nowhere near his office. The third time, at 11:42 p.m., it stopped in front of 409 Barrington, a tired brick building with dim hallway lights and a buzzer that worked only if you pressed it like it owed you money. I called my best friend, Maya, from the car. She answered on the first ring. "Tell me you're not doing this alone." "I'm not going in," I said, even though a part of me wanted to sprint up the stairs, bang on 3B, and burn the whole world down. "I'm documenting." "Document everything," she said, voice flat, practical. "Dates, times, screenshots. Be boring. Boring wins in court." So I filmed. I stayed in the shadow of a dying maple tree, my breath a metronome, my phone steady. He parked, checked his mirror like he always did, and pulled an overnight bag from the trunk. He looked tired in a way I recognized and didn't, the good tired of wanting to be somewhere. He knocked. A woman I recognized from 1,000 casual mentions opened the door. Claire, barefoot. She leaned up to kiss him like it was the easiest thing in the world. I watched, and something inside me went cold and hard and still. In the morning, I made coffee strong enough to strip paint and scheduled a consult with a divorce attorney. The receptionist had the voice of a kindergarten teacher and the efficiency of an assassin. Bring copies of tax returns, pay stubs, and mortgage statements, she said. Any proof of marital assets being used for a third party? Marital assets are being used for a third party. The phrase was clinical, like something you could measure with a ruler. The night after my consult, I pulled 6 months of credit card statements and found dinners for two at places I'd never heard of, ride shares ending blocks from 409 Barrington, and a charge labeled West Side Furnishings for $489. I clicked through my photos until I reached a picture of our living room from a month earlier. A rug was missing. He'd told me he spilled wine on it. We hadn't replaced it. I switched from crying to strategy, like flipping a light switch. At the attorney's office, Miss Jordan wore a navy suit and a skeptical expression that softened with each thing I slid across the desk. Videos, screenshots, statements, a calm list of dates and times. Will file with evidence of dissipation, she said, pen tapping. Ask for temporary support, attorney's fees, and a restraining order on the joint line of credit. Do not confront him until we have everything set. How do I breathe in the meantime? I asked. You already are, she said. You've been breathing through a fire. I turned into a ghost in my own house. I gray-rocked him, neutral, uninteresting, the personification of a paperweight. He'd tell me about work stress, and I'd hum, non-committal. He asked if I could pick up dry cleaning. I did. He stood on our porch one evening and sighed at the horizon like a man with big decisions to make. I was making bigger ones. On a Saturday, he told me, "Don't wait up. We're pushing a patch." I said, "Of course, good luck." He kissed my forehead. "Don't stay mad at shadows," he said, warm, patronizing. I almost laughed. I watched his car dot glide across the map, steady as a heart rate monitor, and stop at 409 Barrington. I gave him 20 minutes. Then I texted him, "Can you pick up milk on your way back?" "Sure," he replied with a smile, "the kind you send your wife when you're with your girlfriend." I drove to Barrington with a manila envelope riding shotgun. The hallway smelled like old carpet and microwave popcorn. My hand didn't shake as I knocked on 3B. The footsteps were unmistakable. He opened the door wearing a t-shirt I'd bought him on vacation. Claire stood behind him in leggings and a look that slid from confusion to fear to fury. "Leah," Adam said, blanching, "what are you doing here?" "Overreacting," I said, and handed him the envelope. "You're being served." He stared down at the papers, then back up at me. "You can't be serious?" "Read the date stamps," I said. "They're very serious." Claire tried to close the door, but I put my hand on the frame, gentle iron. "This isn't about you," I said, soft, enough to pass for kind. "It's about a man who married me and made promises. You happen to be the setting." "Leah, come on," Adam pleaded, stepping into the hallway. "Let's talk at home." "You don't live at home," I said. "You live here, apparently." He ran a hand through his hair, which he had when he was cornered. "You're blowing this up. It's not—" "Oh, I know exactly what it is," I said. And then I did the thing I'd promised myself I wouldn't. I let the anger out. "You made me feel crazy. You told me I was overreacting while you rearranged furniture in someone else's apartment with our money." His mouth opened and closed, fish-like. "Furniture? West Side Furnishings, I said, $489.99. Pretty rug, though. Claire muttered, "This is ridiculous," and walked away. The door clicked shut behind Adam when he followed her, papers dangling from his hand. I walked out into the sunlight and felt weirdly steady, like I'd stepped onto solid ground after months of wobbling. In my car, I voice memoed the time and the service, then took a photo of the envelope in his hand through the closing door. Boring wins in court. I was done being interesting. The fallout came fast. Temporary orders froze our joint line of credit. Adam moved into a furnished month-to-month and texted me paragraphs that alternated between apologies and accusations, as if he couldn't decide whether I was the wife of his youth or a prosecutor who'd tricked him. I didn't answer. My attorney did. At the hearing, his lawyer tried to argue that my surveillance was invasive. Miss Jordan raised an eyebrow that could have split granite. "The car is marital property," she said. "The GPS is a safety feature both parties agreed to use." The judge didn't even blink. We presented the statements that showed dinners, gifts, and a suspicious Venmo transfer labeled "Plants, Burr" that made me snort out loud in court. The judge warned him about dissipation of marital assets and ordered him to reimburse half of the expenditures, pay my attorney's fees, and maintain the mortgage until we settled. The narration at me in the hallway, like I'd set him on fire. "You want to ruin me?" "You did that yourself," I said. "I'm just done funding it." I took small victories where they appeared. I changed the Wi-Fi name to Overreacting Network. Petty? Absolutely. Healing? Also yes. Maya brought over pizza, and we rearranged the living room, not to erase him, but to reclaim space. The rosebush out front bloomed obscenely that week, like it hadn't gotten the memo that my marriage had combusted. When settlement talks started, Adam's voice was tight on the phone. "Can we be reasonable?" he asked. "Reasonable was an option months ago," I said. "Now we're being fair." Fair meant I kept the house and the retirement account I'd been feeding while he invested time and funds into Claire's pottery habit disguised as plants. Fair meant he reimbursed marital funds spent on the affair and paid me temporary support while I refinanced. Fair meant he learned how expensive overreacting could get when it was a court term and not a weapon. The day we signed, he looked up at me across the conference table. The lines around his eyes had deepened. "I didn't think you'd go through with it," he said. Small. "You never thought I'd do anything," I said, and it was the truest sentence I'd spoken in months. Afterward, I drove home with the windows down, hair whipping, the kind of cliché that earns its place because it's real. In the driveway, I sat for a long time, listening to the tick of the cooling engine. I opened the car app and watched the little dot sit perfectly still where it belonged, home. People ask if I miss him. I miss who I thought he was. I miss us in the grocery store, splitting lists, racing down aisles. But I don't miss the second guessing, the performing normal while my stomach sank. I don't miss being told my instincts were hysteria wrapped in perfume. The narration is simple and hard. Love isn't a reason to abandon yourself. Calm can be manipulation. Data can be a lifeline. And sometimes the thing that saves you is the thing you were mocked for. The line between overreacting and overlooking is the line between a wound and a scar. The rosebush is a menace. I keep meaning to trim it back, but every time I pass, it brushes my arm like it's reminding me. Things grow back wild after they're cut. They don't apologize for how much space they take. They just bloom.